Boy, this picture sure tells the story of what kind of weather we are to expect today with these dark clouds here. Not really dark clouds so much as just low, thick clouds. Very dreary day. Great picture there from Melanie over in Italy. And this is what we can expect today. And unfortunately, might be a sign of things to come for Eclipse Day. We'll talk about that later. But today we have temperatures that are well above normal, about 10 degrees above normal. So 83, 84 degrees above that normal of 74. And then overnight tonight, we're still above normal, not quite as much, but we will be in the above normal range. And then we get below normal for a day before things level out later in the week. So I want to go ahead and talk about first, unfortunately we do have to talk about the high pollen count. Maple, oak, and hackberry still very prevalent out there in the air. It's springtime and we're used to that. So now we get to the part that I've been alluding to here. We have this setup, which again is your classic severe weather setup for this evening. There are a few factors I want to talk about. First, we do have a cap in place. Pretty well-defined cap, in fact, when we looked at the soundings this morning. And what we're looking at right now is a situation where the cap should at least somewhat limit development. So we're not going to see widespread severe weather everywhere, but we will see, I think, a broken line of storms, and one or two of those could become severe and could have some pretty strong, pretty large hail with it, mostly due to this split in these diverging winds. We have the jet stream here, and one side of that in the mid-levels of the atmosphere wants to continue on to the west, but that low pressure system, of course, is going to pull some of those north. So you have this split, and anytime you have that split in the atmosphere, you open things up, and that allows for lift. So we will see quite a bit of lift out there, and with more lift, you have stronger updrafts. With stronger updrafts, you have larger hail. Now, I will say too that while the winds will be divergent and split over North Texas, Oklahoma is really where they're going to see the bigger split and the larger lift, so they will see even larger hail, a higher tornado risk, those kinds of things. So that's kind of the setup that we have, and here's how the Storm Prediction Center has parceled things out. Now, this map is controversial here. There's been some back and forth of whether this is really legitimate or not. Overnight, they pulled, really this morning, they pulled the enhanced risk southward to include the Metroplex and parts of our area. Realistically, it looks like they did this because there is a heightened hail risk for our area. It doesn't necessarily follow all of the criteria they have for an enhanced risk, at least in terms of the coverage, because it doesn't look like we're going to have more widespread severe weather. Really, it looks like they did this more as a messaging gesture just to include the Metroplex and say, hey, higher hail risk maybe than initially thought. I think they just did this to get your attention. So again, not really following the criteria that they have out there, but you know, it accomplishes something. So here's where things parcel out as far as those risks. We are under that enhanced risk. I'm counting that for everybody just because a good portion of our area is included. Tornado risk is low. It's not zero. We will have to watch those storms that do develop and reach severe levels to see what they do, but it's not particularly high. Most of that's going to stay north of us. Damaging winds possible. I have hail high here, not because there's some doomsday situation. I want to make sure you understand the context. I have it high here because that will be a fairly decent risk with those storms that develop tonight. We could have inch up to egg size, so 2-inch sized hail, possible, 2-inch in diameter that is. Not likely, but it's possible. So again, I want to make sure you understand that hail is definitely the higher risk here, and with those storms that do reach those severe levels, yeah, that's going to be pretty much the main problem overnight. And then flooding, pretty low risk of that just because these storms will be moving quite quickly. We could have some isolated flooding. We are well saturated on the ground, so we could have some isolated flooding in those areas where we do get very heavy rainfall very quickly, but not a widespread lasting flood issue for this evening. Now I want to time this out for you, and I want to start at 5 o'clock. We should see storms just starting to pop up around 4 to 5 o'clock. looking more and more like those are going to be west of us, probably northwest. So I don't know that we'll really have to worry about anything at that point. Mostly at that point, I'll just be watching for updates and new information. We get into 7 o'clock today, we should start to see this broken line developing to our west. Again, this is a weather model. This is not saying that this storm is going to be exactly over northwestern Hamilton, well, I guess just western Hamilton County there, but it could be generally in this area that we start to see these pop up. Now, 9 o'clock per this model, probably going to be the high water mark of our event this evening. So again, not saying that these storms are going to be exactly in this spot, but it is estimating that we will probably have 2 or 3 stronger storms in our area at that point. But you can see up north, it's definitely cranking up everything to 11 up there in southern Oklahoma. So the model pretty well showing that we could have some storms in our area. And then, yeah, much bigger storms, much more strength, much stronger storms, I should say, if I can get my tongue untied. Much stronger storms up to the north there. And by 11 o'clock, yeah, it looks like most of that is probably east of us, probably weakening at that point. So I think by 11, midnight, we're probably going to be done tonight. So not a terribly late night, at least for most of us. So, but more, again, more intense storms up in the Paris area. You could be looking at some of those stronger storms up that way. But for our area, 1 or 2 storms with some large hail. I think that is probably going to be it. So we put this together in the forecast, and I'm calling for about a 50% chance of storms tonight. Could be a little higher depending on how the coverage goes. Again, 1, 2, 3 storms popping up. 1 or 2 of those could be severe. So that's just kind of the way that will pop up. And we will be breezy today. It is breezy out there with that southerly wind bringing in all that Gulf moisture. And we do reach 83 today, 58 overnight. And then tomorrow noticeably cooler with that breezy northwest wind. And overnight tomorrow night we do get into the 40s. Wednesday, Thursday cranking it back up into the 70s. Wednesday morning will be a little bit, Wednesday morning and Thursday morning will be our cooler mornings. Friday morning, maybe a little bit cooler as well, but Friday we're back close to 80, and then we go into the weekend here, another system moving in for Saturday night, Sunday morning, another chance of rain, and of course you get just beyond there, and that is where we're talking about our eclipse. Now, you're looking at this and you're going, well, we're screwed. Here's the thing, is we are 7 days away. It's not even in the 7-day forecast technically. It won't actually enter that graphic until tonight. But I did want to show you for 2 reasons. 1, to kind of set your expectations now, but also 2, to help us record and observe how this changes over the week. So right now, if the forecast as it looks right now were to verify and remain the same throughout this week, which is usually unlikely, all the way to Eclipse Day, 30% chance of rain, mostly cloudy, and a high of 72 degrees, right around the low 70s. Now, here's what I'm watching to see what might change. Here's the front that will move in late Saturday, Sunday time period. That will be pulling away, and if we only had that front, if we only had the north flow from that front coming in, bringing in some drier air, we'd actually be in pretty good shape. In fact, that's going to be most of our week this week. So if we can move that eclipse up a few days, we'd be in perfect shape. However, we have this other storm coming right behind it in the desert southwest. That will bring in this southwest flow, and yes, with southwest flow comes more moisture. With more moisture comes clouds. A few things I'm watching here is, will this storm be so close as to be right on its tails? Will anything change with the timing of either of these systems? Could that somehow change the prognosis and I say prognosis, I've been in vet offices most of the weekend, but the forecast for this point? Or does it possibly worsen? Do we increase the moisture and possibly have to worry about storms that day? So there's a lot of different things to watch here. And one of the things I'm hoping for is maybe, just maybe, we can cut away maybe at some of the higher clouds and just maybe burn off some of those lower clouds later in the day. Or if we have to have clouds, maybe we can just have the higher clouds, because the lower the clouds, the less light you allow in. If it's very high clouds and it's a thin layer, we will probably still be able to see at least most of the details of that solar eclipse. We won't get to see the intricate details, but we'll at least get to see, maybe the ring of fire a little bit and that kind of thing. But all of that depends on this setup. So we will be watching this over the next several days. I'm providing updates for Hillsboro over on the Eclipseboro page. I'll have updates here, of course, and I will be on stage at Rail Yard Park on Eclipse Day. Of course, this coming Saturday, I will be at the craft fair over at the First United Methodist Church in Waxahachie. I believe that's from 9 to 4, so we'll have more updates on that too. But busy weekend leading up to Eclipse Day, but through all of that, I will be providing updates. But before we get to any of this, we do have to get through some strong to severe thunderstorms tonight, so stay tuned for more updates on what everybody's watching, as well as the chance of storms later tonight.